Thanks for tuning in. Join us as we navigate the growing Cleveland film scene. Learn from the movers and shakers of movie makers in Northeast Ohio. See how they keep themselves busy, who they are, and how they do it. Microphone on. No, wait, we've got that one. We're good. We're fine. All right. So on the show today, haven't been able to do a feature yet, right? But we're going to talk a little bit about your plan. You did a short film that obviously has been getting around quite a bit. I know it was a big element that I want to talk about is that you were able to get a lot of different film festivals and a lot of awards for a short film. And I kind of want to talk about what your plan is, because it's tell me. Well, first off, introduce yourself to the people at home. Say who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Aaron Cabrera, and thank you very much, Jonathan, for having me. I'm just a writer-director from Akron, Ohio, and I've been making movies since I was in middle school, and there's no other option. So, been doing something that long, just keep doing it. You know what I mean?
No, that's true. I've been eating food since I was born, and I've found that if I keep it up, I'll keep doing fine. I've tried not doing it for like a week or so.
Like, don't listen to anybody. Don't give up. Just keep eating, bro.
All right, I will. So yeah, you did a short film that we took a look at, and quality was just very good. And you were saying that your plan is to be able to. Well, talk to us a little bit. What is your plan? Because you want to be able to make a feature eventually, right? What would you say your game plan is going forward?
Well, it's really a continuation of the game plan. After getting out of high school, I'd gone through the phase of, making multiple videos with my friends once a day. You know what I mean? Writing, coming up with an idea, and then making it and that was cool, but I wanted to do something else, and like everything I put my name to, I wanted to put 150% into it and dedicate more time to those projects. So about 4 years ago, I set forth on this project, and I said I was going to make a movie with no dialogue whatsoever, so that way I could submit to festivals all over the world and have that advantage. So that was planned, and to win those awards, get into festivals around, so that way I can start introducing myself to the film community more.
Nice.
I hadn't put myself out there yet because I didn't have anything to my name where I wanted to put myself out there.
Yeah.
So,
well,
that's been the plan.
That's good. I want to talk about that because obviously we're getting with the directors that we're interviewing, we're getting a range. We are with this team that we have put together. We try and do a feature about every year, depending on delays like COVID-19 and stuff like that happening. Occasionally it slows the process down a little bit, but that's kind of the route that we go for. You've also got directors that are like, no, I'm making a film like every day. I'm going to film a scene for this film, and they're just cranking these things out really quickly. And they've got, people, essentially they're not even, I wouldn't even call them necessarily the director, right? Because they're just kind of overseeing. They're more of a producer role, but they call themselves directors. But they've just got a bunch of people working on a bunch of different things. With what you're doing, though, it sounds like you like the approach of a lot more prep time, a lot more preparing, and just making sure that each thing that's produced is that perfect look that you're going for. What would you say are the advantages to that? Being able to take that slower process.
For me, it's much more satisfying because it take that long. You're just focusing on one project at a time. You're only thinking about that project. You're only thinking about the themes, the elements, whatever you're going for, the character arcs. And you can, if you spend more time thinking about every aspect that the film media has as far as like advantages over other art forms, you have costumes, you have set, you have sound design, you have music, all that stuff that you know about. And why not take the extra time to elevate all of those elements and be prepared for anything and everything that can happen on set, plan everything out. So that way when you're on set and things don't exactly go according to plan, whenever you have to make a change on set, you've gone through plan A, B, C, now you're winging it. whenever you make a decision, you and your team, you're making that creative compromise with conviction because you're all on the same page. And
Mm.
that's part of my prep too. I want everybody to be on the exact same page. I don't want to figure anything out on set. We already figured it out. It's a waste of time, waste of money, at least with my approach. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah, that makes sense. With the planning that you're trying to do, what would you say is the goal beyond just the artistic? Does that help? You mentioned the money. Does that help because you're doing, or do you do the planning on your own? You know, where it's not billable hours for the other people that are on set, or what is your approach to that?
well, the last project it was me planning everything,
Mm-hmm.
along with my director of photography. But as far as getting everything scheduled, set up, and all that, that was on my end. But for this next one, I want to delegate more of that
Yeah.
responsibility around for sure.
That makes sense. I try and delegate as much responsibility to other people as I can, so that when the film sucks, I can just go, "That was you, Carlos," you know, or you know. But no, I think that's a good example, and because it's a little bit different than our approach. Just looking for a little bit of insight here. Do you see that when I would think because you know take the longer process to be able to do that? Do you feel like you can better achieve the original idea, or do you feel
Oh,
that the idea adapts a lot more because you know part of the planning is changing over to the new system?
yeah, it definitely you're rediscovering the story with every step of the process, and
Mm-hmm.
it is evolving every step of the process. But you have such a strong understanding of that foundation that when you're on set, like I said, we were able to discover happy little accidents that elevated the story.
Mm.
For instance, those red lights and stuff like that wasn't planned, but
Mm.
because we understood that we were going from yellow to red, you know what I mean, it was a process of colors. It was started off a little green, then it was predominantly yellow, and then it went red. And we were like, wow, you know, that's foreshadowing. You know, it's a hint to the audience, like, red, don't go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, you're able to discover those happy accidents on set.
Yeah,
With
that
your
makes sense. I think that happens quite a bit, and I feel like it. I love that you were able to even, especially when with your plan being you know so much preparation. I'm glad that you're able to. I love when directors are able to admit that it's like, no, that was just essentially that was an act of God. Like that did work out,
Yeah.
but there's so many. I feel like there's so many directors that just let the people on the internet, let people online just go like, yeah, that was planned. You know, like everything I did there was absolutely planned, and it's just not always the case. There's a lot you can do for planning, but when it comes down to it, you know, if
Yeah, when you're on set and just the magic's happening, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you once when you hear an idea, you know it's a good idea, and you know that you can integrate it, and you're excited about integrating it.
yeah,
Also, like, I don't know if you saw, but like when the shadows looking at the in the mirror with the photos, there's a door that closes in the back.
yeah, yeah.
That idea. That was Jared's on set. He was like looking at the films, like, dude, how cool would it be if the door closed? I'm like, well, what happens right after? Dude, absolutely, yes. And then we had somebody down there by the door closing, not planned, but you know, we were so prepared that to hear that idea. It's like, oh yeah, absolutely, do
Nice.
it.
So, because you're going from a project that has no dialogue at all, do you have any fear when you start to bring in? Are you looking for your style to be no dialogue going forward, or are you a little
No,
bit? You know, are you nervous about making that switch over to the having the dialogue in there and what that does to a production?
no, I'm excited because where the shadows fall was nothing but Jared and I sat down and just made restrictions for ourselves,
Mm,
writing. Had to create out of those restrictions. Okay, as few shots as possible, only 3 sets, 3 people max. None of them can talk because I was super poor at the time, didn't have a car, couldn't have auditions, couldn't do rehearsals, so I couldn't rely on, no matter how talented you are, if I
mm,
can't prep with you the way that we want to prep,
yeah,
your performance isn't going to be what it can be.
right.
So with this one, because I've made Where the Shadows Fall, it should give me more opportunity to work with actors and develop the characters and I'm more excited about it because that's definitely not my style to do. No dialogue. I just did it out of
Okay.
practice.
No, I think that makes sense.
It's religious.
I like the thing that I've been shocked by in any project that I've worked on or seen the behind the scenes of is when people do set those rules from the beginning and they adhere to them. It's not that the audience necessarily picks up and realizes, oh my goodness, they are not doing any dialogue on purpose. You know, they don't necessarily see that, but because they don't have to focus on that, I feel like they do eventually cut away that information and start to focus more on the information that you are showing them. So it gets a lot more image based.
They're not distracted. They're not distracted. One thing that I will take with me from where the shadows fall forward with every project is the very long takes.
Yeah.
I really like the long takes, and I feel like it draws the audience more into the story, and it sucks them in more. Because every time you cut, you're disorienting them, right? They got to reevaluate where they are in the space of the story. So, especially with thrillers and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about that. Was the choice, because I know there are a lot more film festivals that will feature horror films, right? There's a lot more, even just film festivals that are horror film festivals, horror / thriller, right? Was that also part of the planning when you were putting together that one to kind of have something that was a little bit more just like the thing without the language? Were you hoping to do that, or is that just your style of choice to be able to do horror?
No, it kind of played out that way.
Okay.
I had no of it being perceived as a horror movie. I just wanted to make like a cool, dope thriller. You know what I mean? That has a complete beginning, middle, and end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no doubt, but I didn't want ambiguity at the same time. They're getting their answers, and then they're filling their imaginations with those answers. And yeah.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I just want to touch on that really quick with the how much do you feel you like to leave up to the audience's imagination? Because the one thing that I really liked about the project was it would, with some film festivals, they really do like a lot of that gore happening, but then they also just like the idea of the gore happening too. So I think you were able to do it in a way that was with your project, and tell me if this was intentional or not. And if it wasn't intentional, you got to own up to it. but if it was intentional, do you try and avoid kind of showing the monster, for one, and two, did you try and avoid showing too much of the gore rather than just the knife itself and the idea of it on purpose?
Yeah, all that was intentional. Okay. And
you promise? Pinky promise?
Yeah, I promise.
Okay.
Yeah. All that was intentional. The story was very much so all about perspective and what's the most interesting perspective for what's going on. And the gore would have, I feel like it would have just thrown the audience off with just the tone and the atmosphere that we had. Going back to the last question, it was, I didn't plan on it being a horror movie. I thought it was going to be thriller, suspense, but I submitted to a few horror festivals and, got best horror. So I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to
just roll with it.
Every single horror one that I can find, because if I can get into those, then cool. And
that's great. All right. Well, we're at our last minute here, so we're going to do some rapid fire ones. So really quick answers. The favorite project that if everybody leaves here and goes and checks out one of your projects, what is it?
Oh, it's definitely Where the Shadows Fall.
Nice. And we'll try and put a link in here for that. And then where would people be able to go and follow your projects in general?
www.disastermind.net. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram.
All right. And what's the genre for your next one that you're putting together right now?
Oh, yeah. No, this one's a horror movie.
Okay.
Right. It's film noir meets horror. And very, very, very excited about it. Been writing it for a few months with my DP. So.
That's perfect. All right, and then last question here, just for filmmakers who are kind of getting started and maybe might be a little bit before where you are in the process of growing towards that feature film. What would you say to them to keep them inspired, and what information, what wisdom would you impart onto those young filmmakers? I
would say find your voice. Whatever genre, you maybe have an idea of what genre movies that you want to make, explore those and make those relentlessly, and because that's where your strengths are, that's where your interests are. And if you're going to put in the work, you know, and as far as your research into whatever your story is, you're going to be more inclined to want to do that research if it's in a genre that relates to subjects that truly fascinate you.
Perfect. That was awesome. Did you practice the last bit a little bit before here? No. Okay. Well, great. Well, that's the end of the end of this episode. Thank you so much, Aaron M. Cabrera, for coming on the show and for imparting so much awesome wisdom for everybody to be able to work with. All right, shutting off the cameras. End of the podcast. Thanks for coming on, man.
Later.